Good morning, HPANWO TV viewers. It's now Sunday. It's Sunday the 8th of August 2010. It's now time for the second day of the UK Exopolitics Expo here in Leeds. And I'm actually staying in Students' Hall of Residence at the university. See, very grand it is there. Very nice. Now this is, look out there, there's these old buildings here, which is where the students live. And they live quite well actually. We've had tea and coffee provided. You know, I never had enough conformist brains to go to university, but if I had done, I'd probably quite enjoyed it. I slept like a bloody log, I tell you. There was quite a lot going on last night. And me and Estaine had a beautiful Thai meal at the Thai restaurant downtown. And we discovered a lovely pub too called The Well, which is just a short walk from here. It's become our sort of temporary local. Met some of the speakers in there Friday night. It was great. Right, the last speaker last night was Richard Dolan. Now Richard Dolan is a guy who is a historian, and he became absolutely hooked on UFOs when he read, like me, really, he read Timothy Good. And it's a lot of people who come hooked on UFOs after reading Tim, because Tim is one of the greatest ufologists in the world. He really is. He's a brilliant man. He's a violinist and a professional musician who's in the London Symphony Orchestra, who's also played with people like Phil Collins and U2 and George Harrison and people like that. So he has a full-time career as a musician, very successful career as a musician, and he's also a ufologist. And he's a very prolific writer. He's been writing books for almost 50 years now on UFOs. He's actually part of the first generation of ufologists, which go back to the 1940s and 50s. So it's almost kind of as if he's almost a sort of living J. Allen Hynek, you know. Imagine, you know, a sort of coelacanth of ufology, if you know what I mean. And after he'd watched these UFOs and he became hooked, he got in touch with a guy who was the producer of Dark Skies and tried to work out what to do about it. And he began studying the history of ufology and UFOs, and he understood that, you know, if you want to try and find a beginning to UFOs, it's actually impossible. They've been reported basically for as long as people have been able to report them, but without being burnt at the stake as witches. There's medieval paintings with UFOs in. I mean, if you want to go back even further, they appear in Egyptian tombs, and there's even many tens of thousands of years older. There's cave paintings with objects in them that look like UFOs. But basically, it's been an accepted fact among governments since the 1940s. At some point in the 1940s, a decision was made to shut it up, to keep it quiet. There was what has been termed a truth embargo. There was the official investigations like NICAP and Blue Book, Project Grunge and Project Blue Book, were basically just whitewashes. Since then, there's been some sort of like backlash against that with all these ufology organisations. There's been the Freedom of Information Act, that was then the government struck back with the Ed Condon report, the restrictions on the FOIA, things like that. There's been leaks from people like Roswell, Reynolds from Forest. There's been some disinformation. It's been a kind of like a war fight been fought, really. Now we now have the Exopolitics initiative with Stephen Greer, Dr. Ed Mitchell, people like that. A disclosure project. There's the statements from various governments about UFOs, non-US governments. Richard Dolan really believes that we're heading towards a point where something has to give, and there'll be a revolution and disclosure will occur. And his talk was about how you deal with that. He's writing a book called AD, After Disclosure, which is pretty much sort of about what do we do, what the hell, how that will affect society. He has a lot of things about how it will affect us economically, how it will affect our social structures, how will it affect religions, what will happen with science, what will happen with the media, what will happen with education. Yeah, he goes through everything really about what will happen. I mean, he makes it sound a bit like a cross between St. Paul's Road to Damascus Revelation and doing cold turkey coming off heroin. That's the kind of basic combination of the situation, what it'll be like. he's got a book which I want to read, but it's cost £20. I think I'll just have to buy his new book. I think because I've got to make some tough decisions about what I'm going to spend my money on, because I don't have very much money. Now he's I was with him up to a point, but then he starts talking about Independence Day, the movie, and he doesn't seem to understand that is a piece of propaganda. Like all Roland Emmerich's films, they're very, very poor quality movies that are basically designed to appeal to the least intelligent and least analytic people in society, and to basically direct them on how to think. But I mean, he's convinced that something will happen. There'll be a major event. There'll be a revelation from a minor government, not US. Maybe the aliens themselves will out themselves. I mean, they are in contact with us. And then he's got to ask them: Are they friendly? Are they friendly? Are they hostile? Will there be war? Will there be a meeting somewhere where you can discuss things? Maybe there'll be an alien embassy set up. An Alpha Centauri embassy in London next to the old US embassy and the Australian embassy and all the others. There would have to be something like that, because we're going to go from being a world with countries in to becoming a planet in a galactic community. I mean, it's going to be pretty incredible. Actually, we're going to be rather like the Indians that were discovered by the small tribes in the jungle that were discovered by the world. A process that's still going on today, and it's going to be. Unfortunately, a lot of those people who were discovered, these lost tribes that are discovered by civilization, and end up being destroyed culturally. The people end up as alcoholics. Well, I hope that doesn't happen to us. Like I said, I was with him up to a point, but I have a very, very different take on things than he does, and I'll explain that in the end of this film, in the conclusion. But nevertheless, it was a very interesting speech, and he's an interesting guy, and I like him, and like Stephen Greer, and I like Steve Bassett. He's a well-meaning guy who wants to do good, and I hope he does. There was a film last night, the John Searle story was premiered in the auditorium, and basically, me and Estain didn't go because it's £20 each, and I didn't have the money. But I'd like to have seen that. And John Searle is like a free energy inventor, and it's a really amazing story. Quite a tragic story, really. He's now an old man who's bent double and walks with a stick. But he's had an amazing life. I'd like to have seen that. I mean, I'll get the DVD when it comes out. Right, we're all ready for part 2. We'll go to the auditorium. The auditorium is actually a lecture theatre, and one of these really steep side lecture theatres with these small seats. And I've sat in them before at the hospital, because they've got them in the medical school at the JR, and they're not that comfortable actually. And me and Estain had a bit of sort of numb bum syndrome towards the end of the day, which was a bit. I'm sure we weren't the only ones there. Never mind. We'll see you later for another exciting instalment of this Exopolitics UK review.